is preparing it right now. See how it says live up there now on the top? We weren't live before. It's going through right now.
It says meeting streaming live on YouTube. So
There it is. Yeah, we're up.
all right.
Yeah, we're up.
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody out there doing?
Hope everybody's doing great. How you doing, my brother?
I'm okay, man. I'm a little tired, to be honest with you. I'm a little run down today. I hope, I don't know. I haven't been feeling 100% the last couple of days, but, I think it might be a change in the weather. I started to feel just a little run down. I was out of town for a few days, and I don't know. Hopefully I'm okay. Hopefully I didn't get the Rona.
I've actually had my allergies have been so bad today, and I was coughing earlier, and I was like, I don't want to do the show today and be coughing because I know that's the first thing you're gonna be like, God damn it, AJ.
Yeah. I'm actually drinking some tea right now. So I don't even know what kind it is, but just a little something to soothe my throat. Cause, like I said, the weather kind of got weird. It got cool and then it got hot today here. I don't know how it was probably the same down here. It got hot. I went outside and I sat outside for about 5 minutes and it was really hot. Anyways.
Yeah, it got really hot. So let's dive right into it, my brother.
Let's do this. All right. Today is Sunday, November the 15th, 2020, in what has been obviously just the craziest year in boxing. And it just seems like it's getting crazier and crazier. Every time we turn around, there's something else crazy happening. You want to talk? Well, I guess let's just get right into the Top Rank card that happened yesterday. Main event, Brook attempting to take the title from Terrence Crawford. But let's first talk about that undercard, the co-main, with the rematch between Andrew Maloney versus Daniel Franco. And obviously anybody out there that's seen the fight or even read anything today on whether it be on the internet or on YouTube knows what a complete farce of a fight this turned into.
Disgusting. I mean, when you see two of the Three Stooges, you know what I mean by the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
From ESPN. Completely disgusted with that and actually turning against the powers that be at ESPN.
Yeah.
I mean, Robert Bird should be absolutely ashamed of himself and anybody else. Jay Nady, don't even get me started on Jay Nady. But I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of elaborate, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Crawford-Cal Brook thing later on, but go ahead, bro.
All right, well, let's basically just set the stage here. So, okay, this was a rematch of a fight that took place 5 months ago, okay? Andrew Maloney and his twin brother, Jason Maloney, they're from Melbourne, Australia. They made the decision, probably the very difficult decision, to come to America about a year ago, train out here, and I believe they're both living in Nevada, get the best sparring, and really kind of, take America by storm. 5 months ago, Maloney was gracious enough, and whether it was mandated by the WBA or whatever, it's not really my concern. But he gave Daniel Franco a shot at the title, and it was a hard fought fight. He didn't make any excuses afterwards. He ended up losing a 12 round. I think it was unanimous decision. It was a close fight up until the 11th round, where he got dropped, he got cut, and he got dropped, and that probably sealed the deal for him on that fight. But he was, gracious enough to give, or to give that opportunity. Now Franco. It was a great fight, so who wouldn't want to see it again? So it sets up, and I think I talked to you on Friday during the weigh-in. I saw the weigh-in, and I think you might have missed that first part of the weigh-in, but I saw Franco looked completely gaunt. He probably didn't train properly for this fight. Either that, or maybe he's just, as a young guy, maybe he's just that quick. He maybe outgrew the weight. I think they were fighting at super bantam, so 115, right?
Correct.
115. He just did not look good at the weigh-in. He was sitting on the chair prior to the weigh-in, and then he went up, got on the scale, made the weight, and then, flexed a little bit and then sat back down. But Maloney, to the contrary, looked sharp. He looked like he could have fought right then. He had energy. He had focus. You could see it. I said it right there. I said, Maloney's going to take him apart. You could see it. He made, whether you want to say whatever happened in that last camp or during that last fight, he realizes the mistakes he made. He felt it. I'm a better fighter than this Franco, and I'm going to go out there and do it. So fast forward 5 months, we're in this fight last night, right? Maloney starts off real strong, and I think sometime in the first minute of the first round, or first minute and 30 of the first round, he lands a beautiful left jab right on the eye. And at one point, I think Timothy Bradley said, "Oh, that was the thumb," but they're thumbless gloves. And per the Nevada State Athletic Commission, these gloves are attached. I believe he was using Everlast MXs, and it's an attached thumb. So whether or not they want to say it was the thumb or whatever, it was a perfectly placed punch, left jab to the right eye of Franco. He continued to pepper that for the next couple rounds, and the minute Russell Mora said it was an accidental headbutt, he never, during the action, never acknowledged that there was a headbutt, because normally if there's a headbutt, one guy will wince, oh, headbutt. They stop the action for a minute, and they'll look to the scorecards, to the 3 scores tables, and say, hey, accidental headbutt, whatever. Especially if a cut had occurred. Well, I mean, so what is it? I think, was it right at the beginning of the third round they were going to start? Or were they in the third round when Russell Mora called the time and had him go over to the doctor? You could see the look on Franco's face.
Yeah.
The eye had nothing to do with what was happening.
I think it was like a little over 2 minutes into the third round.
I don't even know exactly what the time was. I mean, I just remember screaming at the TV, and I remember telling you over the phone, they're laying the groundwork right now to take this fight. They knew that Maloney was going to win this fight, so they were looking for an out. And fighters do it sometimes. The look on Franco's face, he didn't want to fight.
No, he didn't.
He didn't want to fight. He was getting steamrolled, and Robert Garcia knew it. The entire corner knew it. Russell Mora knew it. So what do? They stopped the fight, and they said it was 26 to 30 minutes, proceeded to review the quote unquote headbutt that caused the damage to the eye. There was no headbutt. There was nothing illegal. This right here, in my opinion, is probably second in the last probably 20 years. The only thing I've seen worse than this was the Librado Andrade Lucien Boutte fight in Canada several years back.
Oh, that referee.
Or that referee, that Marlon something was his name.
Didn't he just pass away?
He passed away about a year or two, a couple years ago, maybe a year or two ago. But, I don't want, I mean, whatever. I'm just not going to say anything about the man anymore. But that was an absolute farce, what happened in that fight. This right here was like 1A. That was 1 and that was 1A. At least in my memory and fights that I was watching live. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I was screaming at my television set. My family looks at me and they thought somebody was dying in the front room.
My wife could hear me all the way from my studio. She thought that I'd fallen and hurt myself. And I told her, I go, honestly, this reminded me a lot. And I think we discussed it last night. That controversial call with the Raiders and the Patriots, I believe it was years ago.
The tuck rule. Because it's like they made up a rule on the fly, and they did the same thing here. They basically invented something that prior to it happening did not exist. It wasn't. It just wasn't. It was a fallacy. It was conjured up out of nothing. Like I don't even know how to say it. It was make believe. And go ahead.
I'm sorry. It seems as of late, Top Rank is doing more and more of this. You saw it in the Lomachenko Lopez fight where they were fighting for all the belts, which is a rarity. You usually got to pick one or another. I mean, it just doesn't go like that.
Well, I saw somebody say something. I think, who was it? Somebody said something brilliant. He said, Teofimo, I mean, not to get off track, but Teofimo was running around saying, well, I'm the unified, I unified. And it's like, no, Loma did the heavy lifting. Loma's the one that fought the multiple title holders to get 3 of the 4 belts. And I mean,
he didn't buy the house. He got bequeathed the house,
Yeah, exactly. But you were saying about Top Rank. Well, I saw an interview with Bob Arum where he was absolutely furious. And I don't know if you saw it. You got to watch it. I don't know what channel it's on, but he, at the end of the interview, it was about a 2-minute interview. He was disgusted, and the guy asked him, "What do you need to do to fix this?" He says, "Get the F out of Las Vegas," and he looked dead serious. And so you're thinking,
I know from last night. What happened
from last night?
Ooh,
Bob Arum was furious. He basically got into it with Bob Bennett, and I mean, at this point right now, the only ones really putting fights on in Vegas right now is Top Rank. I mean, I think the PBC's put on a couple there. Maybe, I don't know. Did they do one at the MGM? No, not the MGM. They did one at the Cosmo or something. One of the.
I believe it was the Cosmopolitan.
Either way, PBC's putting their fights on in LA. They had one again at Staples Center. They're toggling back and forth between the Microsoft Theater and Staples Center. top ranks doing the fights at the bubble at the MGM Grand. But I just don't understand, first and foremost, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, the head of that, Bob Bennett, who was he on the phone with? And I don't want to be no conspiracy theorist, but who was he talking to? If he's the head guy in charge, the buck stops with him. Who was he on the phone with discussing it, and what were they discussing? Why was Jay Nady got up from a seat and actually came over and was over Robert Byrd's right shoulder saying things to Robert Byrd, and then he was communicating with somebody that asked him, and he made a motion like this, like this, and he did like this, like shook his head, like, yeah, he saw headbutts, like multiple headbutts. The bottom line is we all know what happened last night. Anybody in boxing, and even if you're not a boxing fan, you know what happened last night. And that was to do that to that young man, Andrew Maloney. You can see he was almost in tears after the fight.
Oh yeah, he's devastated, man.
He had to compose himself. And I'll let this kind of segues into what I thought was the salt in the wound. Okay, that was the travesty. And now to throw salt in the wound, you had Robert Garcia, his son Pita, and one or two other members of the team. I think there was maybe 4 of them. As Maloney's going up to do the interview, not being gracious at all. They basically got ghetto and were talking nothing but shit to Maloney. And Maloney was just there. I think he had his trainer was with them, but they were non-confrontational. But Maloney wasn't going to stand there and let them say so. He fired off a few things back. But I went and watched a video from behind the scenes, and the Garcia team were using profanity. You wasn't doing shit. You knew what was going to happen to you. And it's like, I mean, trash. And I don't give a shit if they see this. Straight trash. Robert Garcia has always been better than this. And for him to take part in this, for him to not acknowledge what happened, or for him to even have the balls and the audacity to say to Bernardo Osuna, while they were waiting and reviewing the tape, oh, we're going to get screwed here. It's like, you're going to get screwed. Your guy was getting his ass beat. I had it 2 rounds to 0, probably going to be 3 rounds to 0 in a short-lived fight. How were they going to get screwed? They were looking for something on that tape to save Franco and to save Garcia's fighter. Classless trash, what they exhibited last night.
No, exactly. And the thing is, it's like, when I was watching an earlier fight prediction that was being asked of Robert Garcia, I've noticed he's gotten very narcissistic in his answers. He's very short with people. Yeah. When asked about the Kell Brook, Terrence Crawford fight, not to get off the subject, his response was Kell Brook wasn't shit. Basically it was going to be an easy night for Crawford, which it wasn't, even though the result was. We'll get into that later. But I've seen more and more of this, and he's always making excuses for his fighters. It's turning into a situation, the kind of thing you used to see with Freddie Roach before Freddie Roach, the Parkinson's really set in deep. He used to make excuses, every excuse in the world when his fighter lost.
Yeah.
It was never his fault. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you also look at it, how many fighters have left Robert Garcia? How many fighters have jumped ship to other trainers and stuff?
Yeah,
it's like a revolving door.
Yeah, it's constant. Yeah, it's constant. And he's another one of the guys that gets a lot of credit for doing things and getting and at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not going to say he's not a good trainer. Robert was a good fighter. He was a good fighter. He's got his little brother Mikey, who's a good fighter. But I honestly I wasn't shocked to see this from his little fat son, because his little fat son does nothing but he's immature and he just runs his mouth.
Never lays the glove up in his life.
I'm saying that as I
doesn't belong there.
Yeah, I'm saying that as I'm running my mouth right now, but I'm not in front of the commission. I'm not on TV running my mouth and being disrespectful to a fighter. The proper way to handle this would have been, hey, you know what? Hey, shit happens. You know what? Let's be gentlemen about it. Let's shake hands and go our separate ways. You know what? We'll promise you, we'll honor what you gave us a shot, and this fight ended prematurely. So we're going to give you we're going to sign on the dotted line, and we're going to make a 3rd fight right now. Well, I personally don't think Franco's going to want to have anything to do with Maloney now.
No,
I don't.
And Maloney knows that. I think that's part of his frustration. He knows the negotiation aspect and what he's going to have to go through all over again just to have this happen again. Then he's got to get him psychologically. I mean, a la freaking Sergey Kovalev. You take something from somebody, and sometimes they just don't come back the same way. The desire is gone.
Well, here's what they'll probably try to do. Just what Andre Ward did. And Andre Ward was shameful in the rematch. There was a rematch clause in that fight.
Yeah.
Everybody knows he didn't win the fight. He himself knows he didn't win the fight, and he'll go down on his deathbed one day. He's going to know. He's going to maybe finally admit it to himself. Hey, I didn't win that fight. He knows he didn't win the fight. Either way, if you remember, the negotiations were supposed to happen right afterwards, right? They stalled Kathy Duva and Kovalev out for a good 4 to 5 months, playing games, getting.
Remember, I told you that was when I think Kovalev went on his drinking binge.
Yeah, frustrated, sidetracked. It just really was bad, and I think the same thing might occur right here. Or Robert, and then we'll come up with the excuse and say, well, you know what, we're gonna, we have a mandatory now at this or whatever, but whatever organization was involved, and I believe it was a WBA title. Am I right? Was it WBA or WBO?
WBA.
WBA. They should make that a mandatory. Say you got 30 days to come to an agreement for a third fight, and if you don't, we're going to strip you that title and hand that title over to Maloney. And unlike Devin Haney, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Devin Haney, but unlike Devin Haney, this will be a title that's handed to him by email that he deserved. Because as far as I'm concerned, Franco's walking around right now in possession of stolen property. That is not his title belt. Andrew Maloney is the champion. We're seeing more of this
every day, bro. I mean, it's happening. It's happening more and more.
Yeah.
And where, like I talked about it on my podcast on Mayhem in the Morning.
Yeah.
Was the balance factor between two fighters. When two fighters come to the negotiating table, everything should. Now, the champion might get certain concessions with the site location and things like this, but when it comes to gloves and weight and everything else, it should be equal. But you're just like back in the days of Manny Pacquiao, and I'm not trying to diss Manny Pacquiao. Matter of fact, I'm wearing my Manny Pacquiao shirt today. I couldn't find my Enter the Ring. It was either this or I was gonna be wearing
Sugar Shane Mosley shirt.
I don't know. I think it was a Pabst Blue Ribbon or something. I don't know. Oh no, Cancun. So getting back to what I was saying was, Manny during his heydays when he was getting the fights with guys like Margarito and Cotto and all these guys, he was bringing a guy from 154 pounds that was a champion down to 146, 47, whatever it is.
Well, Mayweather did the same thing.
Does the same thing.
Mayweather was the master at it. He was the master negotiator.
Well, it started back with Sugar Ray with the whole thing, with
Lalonde and all that.
With Lalonde, where you're getting the multiple titles. The bottom line is they need to stop this bullshit where if you're going to fight for a title, you fight that title against that man at that weight, and it's that title. You don't tag on a couple more titles just because you don't have anybody else ready to take them. It doesn't work that way. Or because you just want to, like with Devin Haney. So Devin Haney wins a title, and he wins two. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Tank. He won what, 2 titles on that night?
Yeah, he defended the 130, but he also won the 135.
So he goes from being a 2-time champion to a 3-time champion, because he had 1 title before that, right?
Yeah.
Or no, he was a 2-time champion. So now he's a 4-time champion.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous,
I don't know the specifics, but yeah. Let's finish up on this Franco Maloney fight. Lastly, we cannot forget to lay some of this blame on Russell Mora as well. Russell Mora is a referee that, if anybody knows his history, he's been a horrible referee his entire career. In fact, I mean, if people think this is atrocious, what he did, basically conjuring something out of nothing, go back and watch Abner Mars versus Joseph Agbeko. When I believe Agbeko was the champion, anybody that knows boxing knows, but if you don't, go back and YouTube that fight. It will make you throw up. The amount of times Mars was allowed to deliberately hit Agbeko low. Russell Mora he gave 1 or 2 little half-ass warnings, never took a point, never took it serious.
I think Russell Mora also did Abner Mars' fight, the one that we went to over at StubHub against Leo Santa Cruz.
Probably, but what was the most disgusting aspect of that fight, Mares Agbeko, was there was a clean low blow, like one of the cleanest low blows you could ever throw, and he called it a knockdown, and he started counting. I mean, the guy's compromised. Now, whether he's compromised by a promotion or somebody's at his house holding a gun to his family's head, and they basically have an earpiece and they're telling him what to do, the man's compromised. And I would tell him to his face if I ever run into him, you're compromised, Russell Mora. You're compromised. The game has passed you by. Robert Byrd, the game has passed you by. Jay Nady, Adelaide Byrd, the game has passed you by. It's time for you people to go. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission continues to show that they are the absolute worst when they allow this to happen. This kind of stuff doesn't happen in New York. It doesn't. It happens in California occasionally, but the fact that they're assigning these retreads, these burnouts, these big fights, and whether as the referee or as one of the judges to score the fight, it just shows that there's an agenda. There's something behind the scenes happening in boxing that is just, it's the dirtiest thing. I mean, to me, it's the. I mean, and I love the sport, but to me, it's the dirtiest sport out there.
It's become, and I think you touched on a good point there. Right now in the world, obviously we're going through this whole presidential debacle, and I'm not trying to get into that.
Yeah.
But every day it's always talked about the people that are the powers to be, whether it be the Senate or the House. This is the same situation with boxing. We got to understand something. The people that we appoint as our ambassadors, the people that we appoint to make these crucial decisions, when we feel that they're compromised and they're not doing their job and they can't explain, Adelaide Berg, having a scorecard where she doesn't give a single round to a fighter that I mean, she scored a fight a couple weeks ago against a guy where a guy got knocked out twice in a round, and she scored it an even round. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I don't know what fight that was, but but some of the things that they do, bro. I mean,
this is where it starts. I mean, like I said, it's not that it's going to be just our voice, but it's going to take the fans. Just like what happens in politics and what happens in work, you need to step up and you need to make your voice heard. You need to tell. If you admire a fighter and he's acting ghetto and he's acting unprofessional like a Teofimo Lopez or some of these other guys, let it be known, because he's not going to stop,
And boxing doesn't need that. Like I said,
we don't need it right now, man.
Sometimes, and I said this after the Teofimo Loma fight. Sometimes in the short term, it may create a little bit of buzz, but in the long term, it turns more people away. This fight that happened last night with this Maloney. And this is going to turn so many casual boxing fans are going to say, "What the hell did I just waste my?"
Well, I think on the one defense on that, casual boxing fans, to me, honestly, are guys that are kind of like teetering between MMA and boxing. So they're not really sure which one they like. Let's be honest, they like MMA for just a pure violent aspect of it. It doesn't take a whole lot of talent to be an MMA fighter, and I'll say that to any MMA fighter. We've been saying this for years. But no, what I was going to say, make a point was the fact that with boxing, if we continue to do this, we're going to turn away people that are going to potentially be involved in boxing, whether it be a fighter, whether it be a judge, whether it be a promoter. And eventually boxing is going to fall into the same travesty that's happening with the government. Because honestly, to me, I don't need a president, but I need boxing in the United States. I don't care about everything else, but I need boxing. And I don't want us to fall in that trap of MMA where it looks like we're so corrupt.
But here's the one thing I will say about the MMA though, and I don't watch a lot of it, but I could probably count on one hand the amount of controversial things I've seen in the last decade with MMA. If a fighter, there's some close decisions, and sometimes I'll see maybe like one fighter, like I think about 6-8 months ago, I did watch a fight where that Donald Cerrone fought somebody, and I thought he did enough to win, but one of the judges had it like 4 rounds to win the other way. But like I said, it's whatever, but it doesn't happen as frequently as it does in boxing. In boxing, it seems like it happens one fight on every boxing card every weekend. Something like this happens. Just an outlandish scorecard, an inept judge. Something is happening, and these are on high-profile fights on free ESPN, where tons of people are watching college football. They're watching the Florida-Arkansas game, and boom, the fights are on. They tune into the fights, and that's the first thing they see, and they just go, "What the is this? Change the channel. I'm done."
I think it's a power play, honestly, between the banners themselves. I mean, you got you got the PBC, you got Top Rank, you got everybody. But I think why you don't see as many controversial decisions also in MMA, it's the money output. These guys aren't making anywhere near the money that boxing is. So even though a fighter might not be making, let's say Joshua Franco right now is not making it, but the potential with this victory and what can turn into this cluster and this, like a Super Six, there's a lot of potential there with money.
Well, yeah, and the fact that he's a Golden Boy fighter. Golden Boy just lost the highest profile fighter they've ever had, Canelo. So they need to retain as much as they possibly can. So, but like I said, that's a whole nother discussion that hinges on conspiracy. I don't want to even go down that, because this was not a Golden Boy promoted event. This was a Top Rank event, and Bob Arum somehow has to find a way to, Bob Aarons made a lot of money. I'd gather to say over the course of his career, he's made Las Vegas hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars with fights.
Absolutely.
Going back into the 70s, 80s, back in the days of Leonard and everybody. But anyways, he needs to do something. It's not enough to just after the fact get angry and pissed off and drop a couple of F-bombs in an interview. He needs to do something, because this is nonsense. It's nonsense for these kids that come over here from Melbourne, Australia. They come over here and these kids are talented. And 2 weeks ago, the other brother, Jason, went in there and, fought tooth and nail with the monster, ends up getting knocked out. I mean, these are guys that are putting on entertaining fights, and like I said, they're sacrificing so much to be here, to be in Las Vegas, away from their families, halfway around the world, and to do them like this. Hey, Australia, if you're out there watching, or if you watch this video at any time, hey, I personally apologize how your fighters are being treated here. This is nonsense.
Well, you make a great point
nonsense
there too, bro, because obviously with this pandemic going on and all this hysteria that's surrounding the United States right now,
yeah,
I think a lot of fighters, you know, where we used to question fighters that were in the UK and other places, and we used to say, well, they're hijacking the title and they're staying there. I'm understanding why they don't want to come across the board.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know,
great point.
I wouldn't, if I was personally a manager or trainer, I'm saying, hey, I'm not sending. I will guarantee you, we probably won't see the monster back here again for a while. We won't see him because I don't think they want to take that risk. They don't need our television and our media to launch his career. He's huge. He's huge worldwide. Proof is in the pudding. So
yeah, you made a good point there. I mean, look at over the years, I've seen some kind of shady things happen to American fighters going overseas. But then in hindsight, I guess I understand now.
Yeah,
I guess I understand now. But I've never seen anything quite like this. I've seen some inept referees and some nonsense happen. Like, well, it wasn't an American fighter, but Costa Zoo when he went over and fought Ricky Hatton. And then as far as I'm concerned, I think it was a pretty close fight. Zoo might have even been winning that fight until
Zoo was winning the fight, but the problem was Zoo was fighting when he should have been in bed.
Well, no, what I'm getting at is that the referee, I don't remember who it was at the time, he allowed that intentional low blow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because Zoo threw a punch, a body shot, hit Hatton. Hatton goes down, and basically he feigned a low blow. It wasn't a low blow. You can go back and watch the video. So what does Ricky Hatton do? He comes right back and throws an intentional low blow, just zapped all of Zoo's strength, and the referee didn't even so much as bat an eye. It's just nonsense. But it's just nonsense. That's probably the worst I've seen. But what I saw last night is even worse than that.
Well, you got to look at it this way too, bro. If they can do this, if they can create a phantom headbutt and take a title away from people on a free event that millions of people are watching, what's the next time? Is it going to get to the point to where they're going to go, hey, you know what? Our fighter's having a tough time. Just make something up and boom, fight's over. You know?
Exactly. Or maybe they need to change that. They need to change that rule.
Well, we talked about earlier.
Okay. About that. Okay. If it's prior to 4 rounds, if 4 rounds or less are completed and there's an accidental butt that causes a stop or an accidental foul, whatever it may be, then it goes to no decision. Maybe they should change that. Maybe it should be only a cut, only a cut sustained,
or an injury.
Or some kind of, but then again, what kind of injury is one man going to inflict on another? I mean, if somebody,
like a freak injury, like what happened with Sean Zepeda in his fight, or something like that happens.
Well, that technically was supposed to be a technical draw because it happened in the second round, and then that fight ended up being a win for Flanagan.
Correct.
It was nonsense, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's nothing Flanagan did. I mean, they both threw punches and they both, they caught arms. It was the weirdest freak thing you've ever seen, but whatever. But
I think what we need is we need some kind of a monitoring, like a controlling factor.
Bro, they have instant replay in Nevada.
That's what I'm saying.
What's the point of instant replay? I don't understand.
It doesn't make sense. But I mean, what I'm saying is that make them explain their actions. Adelaide Bird has a scorecard that's absolutely ridiculous. Make her sit there and explain round by round why it happened. Have Robert Bird show both trainers where it happened, and if he could say that with a clear conscience, then maybe it did happen. But if it's not there and you got 10 people going, dude, what are you talking about? I don't see it.
And they never showed it. And how many times in boxing do you see an accidental punch, or you see a punch land or clean punch and they show it in 8 different angles, or they never showed, they basically just threw blinders on the entire boxing audience.
They threw Mahoney under the bus, bro.
They did. They threw him under the bus. They
showed no respect to him or his team. And you know what? I hate to say it.
And who's to guarantee that he's going to be up for the next fight, because he might be so dejected? Let me give you a case in point. Do you remember back when Jeff Fennick fought Azuma Nelson here in Las Vegas?
Absolutely.
And Jeff Fennick dominated that fight. He had Azuma Nelson on Queer Street in the 10th or 11th round, won that fight clearly. They called the fight a draw right there in the middle of the ring. And no sooner they announced a draw, Don King is patting him on the back. Jeff Fennick saying, we'll do a rematch. And Jeff Fennick looked at him and basically said, F you. You know what I mean? He was furious because he knew and then what happened in the rematch? Jeff Fennick he got blasted.
Yeah.
So you take away the man's, I mean, decisions like this, boxing is like football. It's like anything, it's momentum. right? This Maloney had the momentum. Now, he's going to have to recharge and rev up again to get that momentum again. It may never get there again. So it's not fair to him. Same thing. It wasn't fair to Kovalev. Kovalev should have never even had to fight that second fight. Kovalev should have went off to be the undisputed 175-pound champion. And after the Ward fight, which he clearly won, go on to fight somebody else. Maybe have another 1 or 2 fights and call it a career. Well, what happens? Because of that happened, the man spiraled.
Well, you could look at
the man spirals.
Yeah.
I mean, and look at how many people it affected. His family, the assault allegations. I mean, you look at one little wrinkle in time can affect so many things, man. And this is what these people have to understand. You're not just ripping off a fighter. You're ripping off that fighter's family, the fighter that could have been now fighting for the title, maybe who was in line to fight the winner. Now he's got to wait another 3 to 6 months. You know what I mean? You know, maybe there was somebody that was going to be elevated to #1 status. Let's say Maloney wins. And then, okay, then there's been a fighter in the wings waiting for his shot. That changes the trajectory for his career and his trainer's career and his wife's career and his kid's career. It's horrible, man. No, it's not just little decisions like this. It's not just affecting one person. It affects a myriad of people.
No, you're absolutely right, bro. And the thing is, like we said, I mean, what Mahoney said, the sacrifice that he put going into this fight, the 5 months that he dedicated to come over here to the States and get prepared for it, to be away from his family, like you said, focused, ready, prepared. It's going to be hard to get back up to that. If he gets the opportunity or if he decides he can come back, he may just let it go and just go somewhere else, but who knows? But even if he does somehow get himself back in that position to have that fight, like you said, he may not have that same focus. He may say, I can't spend another 5 months away from my family. And Franco ends up being the guy who's, you know, comes in with the momentum and beats him, and that's a sad way for Mahoney's story to end.
It's horrible, man. It's horrible. It's a shame. And you know what? And like I said, something needs to be done. Bob Arum needs to file an official protest or something. They need to give that kid that title because that kid won that fight.
Oh, absolutely.
That was heartbreaking. I knew the names. I knew the Maloney brothers in watching some of Tim Zoo's interviews the last year, because, you know, they used to train in the same area sometimes, and they made the decision to come over here to the States. But as you get to know these kids more and more, they're two good kids, man. They're twin brothers. They're hard-nosed fighters. You know, they respect the sport, and I don't know. You just don't do that to a fighter, man.
Well, going into that fight, I expressed to you my concern based off of the first fight of Mahoney for his safety reasons. Like this, hopefully, you know, I just didn't want to see anybody get hurt. We just don't need that in boxing anymore. You've had enough tragedy. I was absolutely blown away at just the overall sheer perfect plan and the aggression and everything he was doing. Everything he was doing against Franco was perfect.
He was going to overwhelm him.
Story was written right there. He was going to sleep, and it was coming soon. And like you said, they look for a way out.
Yeah, Franco's on borrowed time right now, and he knows it. And you know how I know he knows it.
There's a few fighters on borrowed time.
But you know how you look into his face.
Oh yeah,
he didn't say one word after that. I don't know if he's done any interviews. Then maybe I don't know. Maybe the kid's a better kid, and maybe the kid's going to be like, hey, you know what? I can't control what the referees do or whatever. But you could see it in his face after the first round. You could see it midway through that second round. He had no answer for Maloney's work rate. He just looked like he looked like a beaten fighter. Maybe he didn't train right. I want to equate a little bit of that to the fact that he did not look like he made weight the right way, because he looked.
And whose fault is that?
That's his own goddamn fault and his trainer's fault.
Exactly.
That's his fault, and that falls on
Robert
Garcia.
Yep. All the excuses and his ghetto attitude. And I'm gonna say it too. Like I said, I mean, we're right here in Chino Hills. I'm in Chino Hills. You're in San Dimas, and he's right here in Riverside.
Yeah.
Our paths cross. We've crossed at events and all that kind of stuff. I'm not looking for violence, but at the end of the day, Robert's got to get some thick skin, understand that people are gonna start calling him out on this bullshit. Don't act ghetto. Be professional.
Yeah, he's never been that way, which was so shocking.
But it's starting to be a trend with him. Remember I told you about his predictions like this? He's getting like that. So I don't know who he's listening to. Whatever the bad influence is, lose it, dude.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. But if I was someone like a Virgil Ortiz or something, I would think really, really hard, long and hard about continuing to go on with somebody like this. I'm like, do I want this kind of shit? Because this is going to surround Robert Garcia now wherever he goes. It's going to surround him. It's going to surround Golden Boy. It's going to surround anybody that's associated with that team. It's like you guys are the ones that are classless. You're straight trash, and you ripped off that poor kid from Australia, and then you try to, and then you pretty much try to, you try to flip the script and say that you were the ones getting screwed.
And Schwerdman's got to understand that too, man. One bad mistake, and it sticks with you. And I'm not saying it was a mistake, but you go back to the tragedy of Mad Max when he was fighting under Buddy McGirt. And Buddy McGregor's been real silent. It really devastated him, the fact that that fighter, because in Buddy's head, and he said it, maybe I should have stopped it 1 or 2 rounds earlier. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to give Max a chance.
Yeah.
And it sticks with it, and it makes fighters who are on the bubble. Am I going to go with this guy? Am I going to go with this guy? You know, and the parents go, hey, you know what? I want you to go with this guy. You know, this guy just was associated with a fighter that died. Same thing here. There's going to be somebody's going to go, you know what? I don't know if I want to be associated with Garcia right now based on the fact, you know, his antics and all the other bullshit and this controversy. He should have been a man and stepped up and said, hey, you know what? You know, if it would have been Robert Alcazar, I know we talk a lot about Robert Alcazar, but he's a great man. You know, he's a real good friend of yours. And, you know, I call him a friend too. Robert probably would have been the first to step up and say, you know what? My fighter lost. What's the discussion?
He doesn't like doing interviews, but one thing I would say is he would be open to an immediate rematch. He'd be like, what's fair is fair. I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't make that decision. But you know, I'm telling you, I don't see this kid Franco giving Maloney another shot. I just don't.
No. Now, was there a rematch clause involved in this fight?
Well, they were fighting the rematch clause.
Okay.
So I don't know if there was another one, you know, another one on top of the original one. I don't know. I'm not privy to the contract, but whatever. I think we spent enough time talking about that. But you know,
I want to say one more thing for that.
Sure.
Young fighters out there, young managers coming up, whatever. Be a good manager, fighter. Be a good fighter, and remember this: if you're the champ and you're going to defend your title, and if you think there's a question that there's an opportunity you might lose that fight for whatever reason, make sure your manager does his job and get you a rematch clause. I'm still, and I don't want to, we never really talked about it, but it's going back to Lomachenko. It kills me. You know, this is the kind of shit that happens, and it just kills me because I'm like, you give somebody an opportunity, it gets stolen from you, and then, you know, you ask to think, well, gentleman's agreement. You know, there is no gentleman's agreement. Those days are over, you know? No. So let's move on.
They've been over for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the main event. Okay. 140.
Hold on, let me get my fucking Cal broke my heart.
Okay, so main event last night. Terrence Crawford retains his title with a 4th round TKO. I guess it's considered a TKO because the referee jumped in. Tony Weeks stopped the fight, right?
Yeah, it was no.
Okay. Who's really looking like a genius right now, and I told you this on the phone yesterday, is Errol Spence. And I don't want to throw no shade at Kell Brook. I love Kell Brook. I think he's a great fighter, and he's a credit to the sport. But he comes out, wins the first 2 rounds. I thought he was boxing beautifully the first 2 rounds, throwing that counter jab. Wasn't really letting the right hand go, but he was pretty much just controlling the pace and landing that jab. 3rd round was close. You still could have gone either way. I mean, on some cards,
he had a good closing in the 3rd round, though.
Yeah. And then in the 4th round, Kell Brook gets hit with a right jab. He kind of steps into a right jab that will probably go down in the last few years as one of the biggest nothing punches and this is a guy that took hammer shots from Sean Porter, Gennady Golovkin, Errol Spence. I mean, you're like,
and I know what the argument's going to be. Well, Terrence Crawford is a different monster. No, Terrence Crawford's not a different monster. Okay, we know people who have been in the ring with Terrence Crawford. Okay,
yes,
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know fighters that have fought him and said, you know, I don't want to say no names, but anyways, he's got a decent punch, but he's no monster hitter. And anybody that saw that punch that landed was probably scratching their head like, what the hell just happened? Here's the only thing I could think of is where that punch landed, right? Maybe the combination of the punch landing on the titanium did something. I don't know, because it was
like a brainwave or something.
It was a nothing punch.
Nothing punch.
It was a nothing punch, and it was utterly disappointing because Kell Brook looked in phenomenal shape, but all of a sudden, you know how they say the last thing to go is your power, right? Well, I didn't know that on the flip side, the first thing to go was your chin, because Kell Brook was always had a strong chin.
But it didn't even really land on his chin. It was like a weird.
No, I know. It landed kind of right here, like right high on the forehead, like right here. Like it landed right here on this side.
I told you about it earlier. King Kong Ortiz knocks out the kid out of rolling heights and stuff like this, hits him with this amazing body shot. The guy's wincing in pain. They hold up his purse. And I'm not saying hold up Cal's purse, but let's be honest. If you're going to hold up a purse, you got to ask yourself, okay, because Terrence Crawford's conversation after that, I finally watched a thing, his post interview stuff, Terrence, he had already planned it. That punch was trained. I was like, dude, I want to tell him, shut up, dude. You just threw a jab. You were probably the most surprised person. Like, holy shit, dude, I just knocked this guy down.
I think he was more surprised than even Andre Ward was when the decision was read in the first Kovalev fight. I think he was honestly shocked, and he did what he had to do. He landed that punch, and then he proceeded to just throw a bunch of wild punches.
He's lucky it happened, bro, because that eye had about another 2 or 3 rounds.
His eye was getting marked up by that jab, and you don't really ever see Terrence marked up like that. He had a nice welt, and it was red. I mean, it looked like it could even eventually turn into a cut, but I mean, there's not really much to say about the fight itself because it happened. Both fights came and went so fast. I think we got a total of less than 6 rounds in the two in the co-main and the main event, which was a total buzzkill because you're sitting around all day waiting. It's 9 o'clock, it's 12 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock. I turn over to 5 o'clock. I turn over to watch the fights on Fox Sports West from LA. I'm watching those fights, and on my phone, I'm watching the.
Did you say you walked out or something to grab something to drink and you actually missed the knockdown?
You mean the Kell Brook knockdown?
Yeah.
No. I saw it, but I think I was stunned. I'm like, it was like.
My wife made me a sandwich. I literally reached over and grabbed my sandwich to take a bite, and I heard, oh my God, what the fuck just happened, dude?
I know. And look, okay, listen, I don't want to sit here and shit on Kell Brook, but they're saying his reported pay for this fight was around $2 million. I don't know. Maybe at this point, what else is there really to do? I think he's a strong guy at 154. I don't know. There's some big guys at 154 though. You still got one of the Charlos there. You've got Teixeira, who's not really a strong puncher, but he's big. I think he's about 6 foot tall. So you're thinking, what do you do, Kell? Do you go back, reevaluate? If you do come back, you got to get back with Brendan Ingle. If
that relationship stays.
There's still fights out there for Kell Brook to fight if he stays at 147. Go to 147. Go talk to Al Heyman. Sign with the PBC. There's a myriad of 147 pounders there. Sean Porter, Ugas, Jamal James, Sergey Lipinets. I mean, there's a lot of fighters there that he could fight. But if he's looking for an immediate title shot again or something, even at 154, I just don't think really it's in the cards for him right now.
You know what this fight kind of reminded me of a little bit, bro? And I'm not talking about the overall matchup, just the outcome. Remind me of when Miguel Cotto stepped up to fight Sergio Martinez. Yeah. And
shocking.
So I mean, the thing was, I'm not trying to take anything away from Terrence Crawford, but Kell Brook's a better fighter than this. And the thing that really gets me is when I look at future possibilities of Kell Brook, my suggestion to Kell would be, retire. Because if you're not durable enough to withstand a jab from Terrence Crawford, you don't want to get in the ring with the front. I don't want to see something bad happen to the guy. He's a good ambassador for the sport. He's articulate. There's a lot of things he can do. He can take the Timothy Bradley route or something like this. I don't want to see Kell. He's had the 2 eye surgeries. I don't want to see him be a Gerald McClellan. I don't want to see that shit. So I would rather see him
a fighter that's just hanging on for too long.
Yeah, I just would rather see him go off to the pastures and stuff, and he's still going to be an ambassador for the sport.
Apparently he's got I think two or three daughters, and he's got a wife and 2 or 3 daughters, and just take care of that family. And he like you said, he's an articulate guy. He's a good looking guy. He's well spoken. He could be on Sky Sports. He could be on Fox Nation, and calling fights from the ringside.
He's the best welterweight in the last 20 years coming out of the UK. At one point he was the best welterweight in the world, and stuff, and it's unfortunate. But maybe that decision to go up and take Gennady on wasn't a good decision.
Yeah, and some
should have waited a little bit longer.
Some people have said that too. I think Spence even said that. He said he's not been the same since that. Because fighters know when they go in there. Sometimes fighters go into a sparring session knowing that they're outgunned and know, hey, I'm not going to be the same. Tim Bradley's famous for saying it. Tim Bradley's famous for looking at his wife and saying, hey, take a look at the man that I am now, because when I come back, I'm not going to be the same. Same thing could really apply after that Gennady Golovkin fight. And then to come right down and take on Errol Spence, who's a dog, who's just relentless. And he lasted 11 rounds with that. But like I said, maybe next time he fights somebody in elite welterweight, maybe he gets taken out 1 round. Who knows? I mean, maybe the right punch lands.
I really don't want to see that.
No, not at all.
I hate when I see great fighters become stepping stones. It breaks my heart. Even when I see mid-level fighters or fighters that one time had promise. There was a guy years ago. I went to the Olympic Auditorium when Paul Behnke won his title, most stablemate, against Daniel Zaragoza. There was a guy that was fighting. These are the fights after the main event. So this is like 2 fights after the main event when they're clearing out the Olympic Auditorium. And it was a kid out of Illinois by name of Dana Rosenblatt. And I'm sorry, no, Dana Roston.
Dana Roston, yeah. Dana Rosenblatt.
Out of ESPN, he was an ESPN lightweight champion at one time, or junior welterweight champion. But I really liked the guy. He was devastating. I remember when he knocked out Lenny Valdez in one round. And here's this guy's fighting. He's got 16 straight losses, and he's fighting against a guy that's 4-4 and loses a 4-round decision. It broke my heart, man.
Yeah.
You know? Not to say that Cal's going to do like that, but there's some fighters out there right now that you're kind of questioning. You're like, dude, why are you still in boxing, man? Why are you still fighting?
Alfred Angulo.
Oh, yeah.
Alfred Angulo. Why is he still fighting?
If Rosado gets beat badly by Daniel Jacobs, he's another one, dude. Where you got to ask yourself, man.
Yeah, Rosado's not a middleweight. Not a middleweight. Yes, yeah. So you know, not much more to say about the Brook fight other than it was a bit shocking. I think most people were expecting a better fight than that. I think even the Crawford's team was expecting to go into later rounds. But like I said, weirder things have happened in boxing. Now, let's touch on a little bit about where does Terrence Crawford go from here? Because there's been a lot of talk about him jumping ship, going over to the PBC. I read actually a brilliant article today. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was actually a very good article about does he stick around with apparently he still has 11 months left on a top rate contract. You know, Bob Arum's not so apt to just let you out of that contract, you know, without taking you to court or taking a big chunk of money from you. And Terrence Crawford's never made big money. I think he made $4 million for this fight last night. I think that's what the report of $4 million. And no, don't get me wrong, $4 million is nothing to squawk over. But in terms of what the elites of the division are getting, I mean, Errol's getting 10. Mikey Garcia got over $10 million to take a beating from Errol Spence for 12 rounds. Okay. And that was just what was reported. Okay. So, does he jump ship, go to the PBC? Does the PBC automatically give him a shot against the winner of Spence and Danny Garcia? There's plenty of fight. If it was me, I would make him grovel a little bit, because not only has he, along with his trainer and everybody on his team, and Max Kellerman and Timothy Bradley and Andre Ward and Mark Kriegel and all these other guys over there and Tessitore, not only have they disparaged the PBC and just ran their mouth and basically talk shit about the PBC. Well, guess what? They're not the ones that have to get in the ring and have to grovel to get a contract. And if I was Al Heyman, I'd be like, okay, we'll let you come over here, but guess what? You ain't getting no title shot right away. You got to earn your way here. Yeah. We don't give shit to people on the PBC.
Make him go fight Keith Thurman.
I don't even think he's honestly, I don't even think he's deserving of fighting Keith Thurman right now, because Keith Thurman doesn't need him. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Keith Thurman, you see, PBC pays their people well. And you and I know this in talking to fighters, talking to people from TGB, they get paid very well. They get paid much better than top ranked fighters. I guarantee you that. Yep. So you say to yourself, hey, make this guy earn it. Hey, put him in there with Sergey Lipinets. Put him in there with Jamal James.
You made a good point today.
Ugas. Put him in there with Ugas. Let's see what you can do with Ugas. Ugas, who's a big, strong guy who is deserving of a high-profile fight. He's been doing everything. He just beat. I know he talked about again,
bro. The balance. Terrence Crawford's not going to fight a Ugas because the balance isn't in his favor. Let's be honest. He took on Kell Brook. Kell Brook, they kept saying it in their own promos, a once great fighter. He knew he was damaged goods. I think he believed a lot of what Errol Spence is. My eyes are blinded by the fact that I admire the man, but he was taking on a damaged fighter. Let's see him walk into the ring against an Ugas. Let's see him walk into the ring against Keith Thurman, or even the loser of the Spence-Danny Garcia fight. It's not going to happen. He's going to look for the guy that shouldn't be there. He's not going to get there with Jamal James or any of these other guys. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, he's clamoring right now because I think he knows with that 11 months left on his contract with Top Rank, I think he knows Bob's not letting him out. So what is he clamoring for? He wants Bob can make a deal with Manny Pacquiao, even though Manny Pacquiao signed with PBC. Manny Pacquiao.
Well, I actually got some report on Manny Pacquiao I want to talk to you about. I talked to my wife, and Manny Pacquiao, he's got his Senate responsibilities in the Philippines. They just had another big major disaster. Manny Pacquiao's pretty much, he hasn't come straight out, but this is on a Filipino station on a thing we were watching. Mm-hmm. Where he's pretty much said that boxing is not important to him right now. He's got more than enough money. He has to do what he has to do there because there's certain things, if you don't do the job that they pay you for, there's penalties. Unlike here in the United States, there's penalties in the Philippines. They could seize your home. They could do a lot of things. So he has to do this.
Yeah, he's got to prioritize things. Yeah.
For the next year and a half, there's almost 2 years. Manny's at his age, he's done.
Well, and that was my point. My point was that he's right away. Terrence Crawford's doing some interviews post fight last night, talking about he wants the Manny Pacquiao fight. Now, okay, we're not talking about a Manny Pacquiao anywhere near his prime. We're talking about a guy who's probably 5 to 7 years past his prime, right? He's 40 years old. He's 5'6". He's much smaller than Terrence.
When the guy that's one of the 3 Stooges that are calling the fight's got a controversial decision over the guy, what does it tell you?
Yeah, and you're like, well, you're really not daring to be great. What you're really daring for is a one-time cash-out fight that you know you're going to be heavily favored for. And a prime Manny Pacquiao takes Terrence Crawford apart, in my opinion. Takes him apart. I don't even think, even if they fought now, if Manny can get himself motivated for the fight, I don't even think that. I think that's a toss-up fight because I think Manny still has a great punch. He still has speed, athleticism.
He proved it against Keith Thurman.
So, but like I said, I mean, I just think he needs to look under door number 2 because that door number 1 with a big money fight with Pacquiao, to me, I mean, that has cash grab written all over it. And you're not going to earn any respect from there. You're going to add some zeros to your bank account and that's it. Nobody's going to be like, oh, wow, did you see, I can't wait for Terrence Crawford to fight, I mean, they're probably as excited about that or as they are the Roy Jones Mike Tyson fight. It would be, at that point it'd be like
I don't mind watching that. I just don't want to see Roy get hurt.
I think Roy's gonna outbox the shit out of Mike Tyson.
You think so?
I think he's just gonna move and just outbox the shit out of him. But that's a whole other video.
Yeah, that's a whole other video. So what I'm doing is I'm right here talking. I'm actually pulling up the welterweight to see how the picture looks right now. So, obviously, when you got some fighters in there like Jamal James, you got
well, PBC's got everybody. They've got everybody. They've got 8 of the top 10 welterweights.
Okay.
And what I kept hearing last night, this common theme that Milk Dud Timothy Bradley keeps saying is and Tessitore said it as well. They keep saying, well, the PBC, they don't even want to mention his name, and at one point they even said he's ducking him. Tim Bradley said they're ducking him. Max Kellerman says they're ducking him. Look at, man. Look at. Do you see Nike making commercials about Reebok? Do you see Nike making commercials about Adidas? No. Nike makes commercials about Nike. Nike promotes Nike. Why the fuck would Nike promote another shoe brand?
Thank you.
That's what it comes down to. If you're the top dog, right, and the PBC is the top dog when it comes to welterweights, I'm sorry. They have everybody. When the best person that you could find for Terrence Crawford to fight in the last 2 fights are Kell Brook, who hasn't fought at 147 for 3.5 years, and the Mean Machine, who's got nobody on his resume, who's just, Yeah,
but for some reason still retains a top 10 rating. Virgil Ortiz, who's actually beat a couple decent guys tipping over the thing, can't get a rating.
Yeah.
That tells you something right there when they want to keep Virgil Ortiz out of that top 10 possible person you got to walk into.
Yeah. Well, ultimately what it comes down to is, like I said, the power structure right now is PBC. So once again, I'll say it. Nike doesn't promote Reebok. Coke don't promote Pepsi.
No.
And the PBC ain't going to promote Top Rank. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. They have enough fighters in there. They can stay busy for the next 3 years. You could put Thurman up against Ugas, Manny Pacquiao up against Lipinets, Mikey Garcia up against Porter, Danny Garcia. You got Spencer Garcia. You could go. It's like a round robin tournament. You start with 10 welterweights and have their own tournament.
I think the funniest thing to me last night, it wasn't funny, it was actually getting really irritating, was every time they mentioned Terrence Crawford's name, whether it was Max Kellerman or it was what's his name, the other guy, not Andre Ward or Timothy Bradley, the other one, Tessitore. It had to be the pound for pound best in the world. No, stop saying that, because that ranking that you're doing right now with ESPN is bought and paid for by Top Rank. It's not the ring ranking. It's not the nationally recognized ranking. I've had the discussion with so many people. Stop pushing something. Terrence Crawford right now in the most legit ranking is number 4. Look at his ring resume. You can say, oh, look what he just did to Kell Brook. Well, according to everybody out there that was a Terrence Crawford fan, Kell Brook was going to get smoked anyways.
He was damaged goods.
Damaged goods coming the fight.
It's like you said, you discredit your opponent so much when you beat him. Then I shouldn't give you credit for that.
Now do that to Errol Spence. maybe do it to Sean Porter, who's not damaged. Do it to Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia. I'm going to step back up and say, hey, you know what? My opinion's wrong, but it'll never happen.
It's not going to happen.
Terrence Crawford has taken the Floyd Mayweather route to the last part of his career. He's looking to cash out. He's talking about nobody wants smoke, but every time I turn around, there's another fighter calling you out. I just saw Jerron Ennis was calling him out.
Yeah.
The young kid that's 26-0. You know,
well, apparently, you know, Sean Porter, they were attempting to make a deal, and they probably threw some ridiculous lowball number at Sean Porter for the fight, which basically, you know, I mean, the number wasn't disclosed, but I can guarantee you it's probably half or less than half of what Sean Porter's getting to fight guys like Errol Spence, getting to fight guys like, you know, when he fought Danny Garcia. I mean, like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the money. It's a business. It's a business, right? You want to be the best, but it's also about business. And they just don't need the guy. They just don't need the guy. And I agree with you 100%. There is nothing on his resume that shouts out number one pound for pound fighter in the world.
No,
not at all. If you would have stayed at 140 and took out Taylor, Ramirez, Prograis, where the competition was, then you could say, hey, then this guy's got a legitimate shot. No, but he elected to come up to 147, where he's fought nobody at 147.
Whether it be as mandatory or as voluntary, he's always made it his way. He's not going to hide behind any banner. And let's be honest, when you see somebody, and this is another thing, that a problem that I have with Top Rank and especially ESPN. ESPN has just really gotten under my skin. Is the fact that they're allowing these guys, when you have commentators, it's just like a news broadcaster who went to journalism school. You're supposed to keep some type of a middle ground. These guys are so far up Terrence's ass.
Yeah.
I mean, for them to say things like Josh Taylor and Ramirez, don't even think about Terrence Crawford because you're not even at that level, which tells me if you're going to talk about those guys and you're saying guys like Chon Zepeda doesn't have a shot in hell. And that's bullshit. I mean, when you look at, okay, like I said, you got Terrence Crawford beating Kell Brook, you know, who's really, like you said, a damaged fighter. Before that, he's got Kavaliauskas. Nobody even knew who the guy was. The guy was selling, you know, freaking, you know, nuclear war bombs back in wherever, you know. Then he's got Amir Khan before that. That was his voluntary. He chose Amir Khan, a guy who's got more glass in his chin.
Why did he choose Amir Khan? Because he thought he was going to get paid. He thought he was going to get paid. And you know what? And it was a total bust as a pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
A total flop. He's not the top dog in the division, man. I'm sorry. He's just not. Because it's a combination of ring resume and people wanting to pay to see you fight. And nobody wants to pay to see Terrence Crawford fight. You know why? Because if they were, he wouldn't be on ESPN. He'd be fighting on pay-per-views right now. But Bob Arum lost his ass on that one. Made that mistake. I went and watched that fight at a sports bar, right? That normally is packed for boxing. I had to tell the people to turn. I said, "Are you guys got the fight?"
Was that the Amir Khan fight?
The Amir Khan fight. Nobody in the entire building was even knew or cared the fight was on.
Well, Top Rank's done a really bad job. Only these last couple of fights, they've done a little bit better job in their promoting skills. They're not like the PBC. But getting back on this just real quick, you got Jose Benavidez Jr., who honestly I think was probably Crawford's best opponent on paper. But Benavidez was not the same Benavidez. We had a conversation with him at the Staples Center. Yeah. The man was coming off of over a 2.5-year layoff due to being shot in the leg, you know, where he almost passed away. They knew to the 2 fights that Benavidez had prior that he was having problems with that leg. They take the fight. Go back and watch the fight. Benavidez was sweeping those rounds. Leg dies in the 4th or 5th round. There she is. Before that, you got Jeff Horn. Everybody knows Jeff Horn's about. The guy has very little skill. And Dongo before that, you know, goes in there and goes, you know, 3 rounds with Terrence Crawford, and they're like, oh, Terrence Crawford's so amazing. His next fight, he gets blown out by Regis in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Before that, he fights Felix Diaz. Why? Because Diaz was undefeated. The guy's
5'5".
5'5".
Yeah.
Victor Posto, another guy who just got stamped into that thing. Hank Lundy, ask John Molina about Hank Lundy. He'll tell you about Hank Lundy.
Yeah, exactly.
Orme, another guy that got smoked. Beltran, Gamboa, Ricky. That's it, man.
That's it. Gamboa, who was fighting 2 divisions north of where he should have been, hurt him multiple times and actually gave him a tough fight.
Well, here's the thing is, bro, and we'll get ready to close out on this in just a little bit. Give me your top 5 pound for pound, the Enter the Ring live pound for pound list right now. Your top 5.
Number 1, even though he's been on the receiving end of a couple, you know, he's fought a couple, you know, I would say not the best opponents lately. Canelo Alvarez is number 1 for me. Number 2 would be probably the Monster. Inoue. 3 would probably be, to me, it's probably between Usyk and Spence, because a lot of I see a lot of people pound for pound list, they got Spence down at like 5 or 6, and you got to remember, he's the unified champion.
He earned every title he's got.
He's earned every title, and he went to Sheffield, beat Kell Brook for the title, and then beat Sean Porter here at Staples Center. Which basically is almost like Sean Porter's backyard. Sean Porter lives in Vegas now. He spends a lot of time in LA. Anyway, so I would say probably number 3 Usyk, number 4 Spence, number 5. You know what? I don't know why people all of a sudden, because he was on the receiving end of 2 suspect decisions, have completely written off Gennady Golovkin. I mean, Golovkin's down there now. It's like, who? I mean, I know he had a tough fight with Derevyanchenko, but everybody has tough fights.
Who doesn't have a tough fight?
Yeah, but here's a guy that was beating every and anybody, and on a 20-something fight knockout streak, and because he's on the receiving end of a couple of piss poor decisions, especially fight number 1 against Canelo, he gets bounced all the way down to like number 7 or number 8.
Terrence Crawford should get a thank you letter, put a couple ducats in there, mail it off to Gennady, say, hey, thanks for taking care of Brook and giving me, what I got last night.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I mean, you could definitely put Terrence in the top 10, but to me, he's no higher than 5 or 6. He's just not. Yep. If he would have stayed at 140 and cleaned out the division, because he didn't clean out the division, he conveniently got out of the division when guys were on the upcome. Like I'm talking about Ramirez, Taylor, Prograis. These guys were on the come up, and these guys were getting into the 18, 19, 20 fight, and he lipped. It wasn't like he left the division because he couldn't make the weight. You could take one look at Terrence Crawford. No, he could still make 140.
Yeah.
It reminds me of 20 years ago when Floyd Mayweather completely fucking did a leapfrog over 140 because he didn't want to fight who? Costa Tszyu.
He didn't want to fight Costa Tszyu.
He didn't want to fight Costa Tszyu, so he completely leapfrogged him and goes to 147.
He didn't want to fight the prime Zab Judah either. There was a couple
the prime Zab Judah, the prime Sean Bray Mitchell. There were some prime fighters in there. I mean, look at DeMarcus Corley almost beat him.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's just DeMarcus Corley. There was a few fighters, and everybody knows he lost a fight to Ramirez. You can say to Castillo. You can say it all day.
He lost that first fight. He avenged it, but he lost the first fight.
Yeah, but then again, we talk about being up for one fight and not being up for the other. Look what happened with Maidana? Maidana was a questionable decision, and then what happens in the next one? Yeah. So what was your top 5 again?
I had a Canelo 1.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Monster 2.
Okay.
Usyk 3.
Mm-hmm.
I had Spence 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then who did I have? 5? I had Triple G 5.
Okay, so I'll give you mine real quick. Okay, so my number 1 right off the bat, obviously I'm going to go with Canelo Alvarez. You got to look at the guy's ring resume. You got to look who he's stepping in with next. Another undefeated guy at a much higher weight.
Super middleweight.
Say what you want to say, but Canelo Alvarez is going to make an example out of Callum Smith. Callum Smith's been running his mouth. I think he got a reality check in the Ryder fight, and I think that he's looking at an opportunity to cash out here because he knows if it's not Canelo Alvarez for some millions of dollars, it's going to be somebody else for
a fraction of that, for a lot less. Yeah.
So Canelo Alvarez, number 1. Okay. My number 2 is definitely the monster out of Japan. People can say what other one. Look at the guy's ring resume. He's just walking through people, and there's still room for growth. There's still room for potential. You know what I'm saying? You saw it last night. You saw the twin brother of Maloney, how good he is. And you know what? Don't take nothing away from the other brother. He's just as good. It's just he was in there with a much better fighter. I mean, honestly, I would hate to see, I know what happened, but I would hate to see Franco in with the monster. That's, might as well just put a casket next to this ring. But that's my number 2.
Okay.
My number 3 as a fighter that I think that a lot of people are kind of overlooking and stuff because of what happened. I'm going to say Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to tell you why. Manny Pacquiao really hasn't had anybody take that thing. He came back after a while, and he beats the undefeated Keith Thurman, who was a legitimate, champ. So
unified champion.
Beat Sean Porter, beat Danny Garcia. There it is.
Unified champion.
The unified champion. So number 3, Manny Pacquiao. Okay. My number 4, as much as I like Errol Spence, and I think Errol Spence did a great job, but I got to go with Gennady Golovkin. I'm going to tell you why, because Gennady deserves it. He's been doing it for a while. 2 questionable decisions. Well, the first one, definitely, I feel Gennady won against Canelo. The second one, I thought he just, Canelo fought a little bit better fight, but it could have been draw. But I gave a little bit of an edge to Canelo. But the bottom line, Gennady hasn't been the same. And his choices are going to eventually, what caused his shine to dim. Not his performances, it's his choices. Steve Rolls and these other guys. Now he's got another guy coming up that I've never heard of.
Yeah, it's a mandatory.
You can't. For a long time, I thought the Charlos were blowing smoke, but it's starting to look like Gennady wants no part of the Charlos. He wants no part of some of these bigger guys, and it's not looking good for Gennady, especially at his age. He's not going to get another shot against Canelo Alvarez. The only way he gets a shot against Canelo Alvarez is if Canelo gets knocked out by Callum Smith. He's got no other options, and let's take the big money fight with Gennady, and let's do that last one and go sayonara.
And who do you got at 5 then?
Tyson Fury. People forget that the man is a lineal champion.
Yeah.
He beats the man who beat the man who beat the man.
Okay.
So Tyson Fury, I mean, the bottom line is, I know you said Usyk, but I know that if I would have mentioned Tyson Fury.
Well, but I want to elaborate on why I say it's Usyk. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I wanted to go back to. Okay, when I see people making arguments for Terrence Crawford being the pound for pound #1 fighter, okay, well he's the first fighter in decades since Costa Tszyu to unify 140. Now, when Costa Tszyu unified 140, the WBO was a fringe title. It was like the NABF title, okay? So Costa never even had an opportunity to win that 4 title. He unified WBA, WBC, IBF, okay? So what does Terrence Crawford do? Terrence Crawford unifies, wins all 4 belts, vacates, goes up to 147. What the fuck did Usyk do? The exact same thing.
Same thing.
And did it in the most dominating fashion I've ever seen. When he beat Murat Gassiev, that was an absolute masterclass.
Oh, yeah.
And then what does he do?
Especially if being a guy as dangerous as that, and then against Bradis, too.
Yeah, and then what does he do after that? He doesn't go. He jumps up to the biggest division in boxing, heavyweight. Now, granted, I mean, his performance against Chisora a couple weeks ago wasn't, I mean, he won the fight handily, but maybe he's not going to be able to dominate these guys physically the way he did at cruiserweight. But how can you make a case for Terrence Crawford and not make a case for Usyk? Because if you ask my opinion, hey, Usyk's going after Anthony Joshua.
Oh, yes, he is.
He's a mandatory. He's saying, I ain't taking step aside money. I'm going to go fight a 6'6", 245-pound beast of a heavyweight, where Terrence Crawford is calling out a 5'6", 41-year-old Manny Pacquiao.
And
tell me who deserves to be pound for pound.
And the sad thing is, there's so many fighters still, bro, that we still haven't, that are just off our list. I mean, guys like Arthur Benavidez, and light heavy, the guy's a monster. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got Bivol up there, another freaking beast.
Another beast who just, unfortunately, right now, or Baturbiev, another one who's ran into all kinds of promotion issues, hasn't fought in a year.
And obviously, because of the Teofimo loss, everybody forgot about Lomachenko.
Yeah.
This situation that happens. I mean, you just can't take all of that gloss away just because a guy has a bad night. You can't take what he's done in the past. That's what pound for pound is about, what you've done in your career. Not what just this moment.
If Terrence Crawford would have lost that fight last night, he probably got knocked down to no worse than number 3. It reminds me of the college football rankings. Like if an Alabama loses, they're going to get knocked down maybe 2 rungs. But if like a USC or a Pac-12 team loses, they drop them all the way out of the top 15.
I'll tell you now, the next time we see a guy like Max Kellerman, we see a guy like Timothy Bradley, or we see a guy like Andre Ward, I want to ask him this question and make it real quick. I want you to give me 2 reasons why Terrence Crawford's #1 in the world. Give me 2 reasons, because you can match his ring resume against any of the people that I just talked about, any of the people that you talked about, and it doesn't even come close, bro. And no disrespect to Brook, Amir Khan, anybody. No. But come on, let's be honest here. I mean, look what just because you don't know the fighters and they're not marquee, what Inoue is doing right now in boxing, is what Chocolito was doing a few years ago. When he was considered pound for pound number one.
Yep.
They won't even discuss this man as #1.
Yeah.
The disrespect that he gets. How long do you think this man's going to even give the United States a chance before he wins every title, goes back to Japan, and goes like this? Yeah. That's it, man.
That's a great point, man. That's a brilliant point, man.
But hey, bro, it was a great show today, man. It was good to be back. Guys, everybody out there, we really apologize. We've been suffering a lot of the effects of the pandemic, and the fact that they don't sell Jeremiah weed in California anymore, the drink. But like I said, we are going to get, I think we found a great format right now that we're doing and stuff like that. And we're going to get on a more frequent schedule with our shows. So look out for the next couple of days, and we'll release information on our next show here with Enter the Ring, with my brother, Mighty Mike, and myself, AJ Rage. Mike, send us out.
See you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to Enter the Ring. Until next time.
Everybody have a great night.